She was young, beautiful, and had over 20,000 followers hanging on her every post. But behind the filtered smiles and motivational quotes, Alexis Sharkey was hiding a secret life of fear, isolation, and emotional abuse. Days after Thanksgiving 2020, her naked body was found dumped by a roadside in Houston. And the truth? It was far darker than anything her followers ever saw.
From the outside, Alexis Sharkey appeared to be living the dream. Her Instagram feed was filled with picturesque views, glowing selfies, and inspirational quotes that projected confidence, ambition, and success. She was only 26 years old, yet she had already built a steady following of over 20,000 people who admired her for her health routines, beauty tips, and global adventures. Many looked up to her as a role model of the girl boss generation. Alexis had recently relocated to Houston, Texas, with her husband, Tom Sharkey. On social media, their marriage looked exciting and supportive, but friends say something was off. In private, Alexis confided in a few close friends that the relationship had become strained. She described Tom as increasingly controlling and emotionally abusive, and she had started making plans to leave him. Despite those challenges, Alexis never let any of that show online. Her posts remained upbeat, filtered, and carefully curated. Behind every perfect caption, she was battling a storm. Thanksgiving 2020 was supposed to be a quiet holiday. Alexis had spent part of the day speaking with her mother over the phone. She sounded fine, distant, but not alarmed. But then, just 2 days later, Alexis disappeared without warning. Her friends tried calling, texting, even checking her social media, but there was only silence. Tom told police that Alexis had walked out of their home after a heated argument. He claimed she needed space and had gone out alone, without her phone or wallet. Her friends knew something was very wrong. Alexis was never without her phone, and she wouldn't disappear without letting someone know. The anxiety grew by the hour. On November 28, 2020, a city sanitation worker driving along a remote Houston road made a chilling discovery. He spotted what looked like a mannequin lying by the roadside. It wasn't a mannequin. It was Alexis. Her body was found completely naked, lying face up and lifeless. There were no visible injuries or signs of trauma on her skin. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. People couldn't understand how someone so full of life could end up abandoned like this, without warning or explanation. Police were initially tight-lipped. They stated that there were no immediate signs of foul play, but many suspected otherwise. Alexis's body had been dumped, not accidentally left behind. News outlets quickly picked up the story. Instagram influencer found dead in Houston became a trending headline. But to her friends, it wasn't just a headline. It was a nightmare come true. Her followers mourned in real time, flooding her comment sections with disbelief and prayers. Yet some noticed cryptic patterns in her final posts, subtle cries for help they hadn't seen before. In the days that followed, Alexis's inner circle came forward. They revealed the truth behind the filtered images. Alexis had been afraid. She believed she was being watched, monitored, and emotionally manipulated. The image of a carefree traveling influencer no longer held up. Her curated life had been unraveling in silence, and her decision to leave Tom may have triggered something fatal. As detectives began piecing together her last days, the timeline pointed to one consistent factor: her growing desperation to escape a marriage she no longer felt safe in. The question now wasn't just what happened to Alexis. It was who had the motive to make her disappear, and why her body was left so deliberately, so callously, in the open. All eyes turned to the one person who claimed to have seen her last: her husband, Tom Sharkey. His reactions, interviews, and silence would soon define the next phase of the investigation. When news of Alexis's death broke, Tom Sharkey took to Facebook. He insisted that he had nothing to hide, that he had loved Alexis, and that she had simply been under stress. But many were unsettled by his tone. Instead of grief, Tom's public statements were combative, defensive, and sometimes dismissive. He attacked those who questioned him online. In one now infamous post he wrote, "She wasn't missing. She just needed to get away. Y'all should stop playing detective." It did little to convince the public of his innocence. Alexis's friends weren't silent either. They shared screenshots of texts and voice notes where she described Tom's unpredictable behavior and her increasing fear of staying with him. Privately, Alexis had told them she was planning to file for divorce. She was trying to create a new, independent life. But it wasn't easy with someone watching her every move. Police began investigating quietly. While they had no witnesses, no camera footage, and no immediate signs of struggle, they started gathering digital evidence from Alexis's phone and online activity. The autopsy results took weeks to arrive, but when they did, they were definitive. Alexis Sharkey had been strangled to death. The case was now officially ruled a homicide. The discovery reignited public interest. Thousands of people began following the investigation, with amateur sleuths dissecting timelines, text messages, and suspicious behaviors. Tom stopped talking to media shortly afterward. He moved out of the apartment he once shared with Alexis and relocated to Florida, cutting off most communication with investigators. Police believed Alexis had been killed elsewhere, likely in her home, and her body transported later. The location where she was found had no signs of a struggle, indicating a post-mortem dump. They also discovered that Alexis had once expressed fear that Tom would kill her if she left. That statement, shared in confidence with a friend, now echoed ominously. Over time, detectives were able to build a circumstantial case. Tom had no alibi for the night Alexis disappeared. He refused to provide his phone voluntarily. He stopped cooperating altogether. Investigators collected surveillance footage, analyzed GPS pings, and reconstructed Alexis's final movements. They found inconsistencies in Tom's timeline, gaps he couldn't explain. Friends also mentioned past incidents where Tom had gotten physical, though Alexis had never pressed charges. She had always tried to protect his image, even when she feared him. Eventually, prosecutors believed they had enough to file charges. A warrant for Tom Sharkey's arrest was issued in October 2021, nearly a year after Alexis was found dead. The plan was to arrest him in Fort Myers, Florida, where he had been staying, U.S. Marshals were dispatched to bring him in without incident. But things didn't go according to plan. On the morning they arrived at the residence, they found Tom dead inside. He had taken his own life with a gunshot to the head, just hours before they could confront him. There was no confession letter, no apology, no attempt to explain. Only silence. In death, Tom Sharkey had shut the door on justice and left the world with questions that would never be answered. The news of Tom Sharkey's suicide sent shockwaves through the case. For nearly a year, Alexis's family and friends had waited for justice. Now that path had ended in a final, irreversible act. Tom was discovered in a bedroom of his father's house in Fort Myers, Florida. He had been aware of the pending arrest. Law enforcement believed he had been tipped off the night before. Though they had hoped for a peaceful arrest and trial, the reality was stark. Tom had made a final choice to control the narrative, to avoid shame, and perhaps to escape accountability. In the weeks following his death, the Houston Police Department held a press conference. They officially named Tom as the sole suspect in the murder of Alexis Sharkey. Authorities detailed the evidence they had gathered, conflicting stories, GPS data that contradicted Tom's timeline, and witness statements that pointed toward a pattern of abuse. There was no doubt in their minds. If Tom had been alive, he would have been arrested, charged, and brought to trial for the murder of his wife. The case was, for them, effectively closed. But for those who loved Alexis, there was no real closure. There would be no trial, no cross-examination, no chance to see Tom face justice in court. Just the haunting knowledge that he would never be held accountable. Alexis's mother, Stacy Robino, bravely addressed the media. She thanked the public for their support and expressed sorrow that her daughter's voice had been silenced in such a cruel way. She described Alexis as vibrant, intelligent, and deeply compassionate. A woman who had struggled privately, but still managed to make others feel seen, valued, and inspired. Stacy vowed to honor her daughter's memory by advocating for women in abusive relationships. She didn't want Alexis's story to be reduced to headlines or hashtags. Online, the public response was powerful. Influencers, women's rights activists, and domestic violence organizations began using Alexis's story to raise awareness about emotional and psychological abuse. Many noted that Alexis's death was a grim reflection of a wider epidemic where toxic partners hide behind curated photos, and abuse can fester in silence, unseen by the world. Social media flooded once again with tributes. People who had never met Alexis felt the loss personally, because they had followed her journey and felt connected to her spirit. Yet beneath the mourning was a deeper reckoning. Questions arose about how many other influencers, creators, and women were suffering silently while performing joy for the algorithm. The influencer world suddenly felt less glossy, less safe. If someone like Alexis, so full of energy, goals, and visibility, could meet such an end, what did that mean for the rest? The tragedy also prompted deeper discussions about intervention. Could someone have done more? Should there have been louder warnings? Could Alexis's life have been saved? These questions still hang in the air. They may never be answered, but they continue to echo every time someone scrolls through a seemingly perfect life online. Alexis didn't just disappear. She was taken by someone she trusted. Her death wasn't random or accidental. It was an act of possession, an ultimate refusal to let her go. And even though the justice system never got its day in court, the truth was undeniable. Tom Sharkey was the killer, and his final act was one last attempt to escape what he had done. But in that act, he only sealed the story. He confirmed everything Alexis had feared and everything her friends had tried to stop. He didn't break the silence. He ran from it. In the aftermath of the case, one painful truth remained. Alexis Sharkey had lived and died under the weight of a performance. A life that looked beautiful on the surface, but was cracking underneath. Her Instagram account, still online, became a digital memorial. Every photo, every caption, now carried a different meaning. Followers reread her words and saw signs they had missed. Phrases like "finding my peace" or "cutting out negativity" suddenly took on chilling undertones. In hindsight, they were not just motivational slogans, they were coded cries for help. Alexis had lived in a world where vulnerability was filtered, curated, and packaged. But real fear and abuse can't be hashtagged. It hides in text messages, in silences, in glances behind the camera. Her case forced people to look beyond the filters, to ask what people are hiding when they say, "I'm fine." Because often, they're not. Friends who knew her best have spoken out. They said Alexis had tried to leave, she had reached out. She had wanted a different life, but that life was taken from her before she could reach it. Her mother started working with domestic abuse organizations, offering resources for women who feel stuck, scared, or silenced. In doing so, she gave Alexis's story a new kind of power. In schools, seminars, and podcasts, Alexis's name is now mentioned not as an influencer, but as a warning, a reminder that even the brightest smile can hide the deepest fear. Her story inspired others to speak out. Several women came forward to share their own experiences of emotional manipulation and domestic violence. Emboldened by Alexis's legacy, she became a symbol not of tragedy alone, but of courage. Of the bravery it takes to leave, to speak, to begin again. And of the price some pay for trying. The influencer world also shifted in subtle ways. More creators began showing raw moments, mental health struggles, therapy sessions, unfiltered grief. The illusion of perfection cracked out. Of course, social media is still a place of performance. But for a while, Alexis made people stop and think. Not everything that shines is gold. Not every love story is safe. In the years since, podcasts, YouTube channels, and documentaries have covered her case. Some focus on the timeline. Others focus on the psychology. But they all come back to one haunting question. How many others are still out there smiling for the camera while quietly dying inside? Alexis Sharkey's story is not just about murder. It's about the danger of appearances. The way toxic relationships can hide behind hashtags. And the silence we keep for fear of not being believed. Today, her memory lives on, not just in her images, but in the thousands of lives she continues to touch. Through advocacy, through awareness, through truth. If her death teaches us anything, it is this: pay attention. Ask questions. Look beyond the surface. Because someone you know might be silently slipping away behind a smile. Alexis wanted to live. She wanted to be free. And even though her life was cut short, Her voice now speaks louder than ever. In the filtered world we scroll through every day, let her truth be the unfiltered reminder of what really matters. Honesty, safety, and the courage to walk away, even when it's hard. And if you're watching this and you feel unsafe, please know, you're not alone. There is help, there is hope, and there is life after fear.
Okay, so let's talk about this picture of, well, apparent perfection. You see someone's life online, right?
Yeah.
Gorgeous photos, amazing trips, inspiring quotes. And that was Alexis Sharkey, a 26-year-old Instagram influencer. She had something like over 20,000 followers. People looked up to her for health tips, beauty stuff, these global adventures, kind of the poster child for the whole girl boss idea.
Exactly. She really cultivated that image.
But then there's this awful, jarring reality underneath. Despite this super polished online life, Alexis was actually dealing with something really dark. And her sudden disappearance, followed by, the absolutely shocking discovery of her body, it just sent shockwaves everywhere. Her community, her followers online, everyone was stunned.
Understandably so.
So our deep dive today, we're trying to unpack the layers here. We want to get past those filtered photos and understand the danger she was actually in, and also how the investigation played out, because it's complex, and what kind of legacy this leaves behind, because it's not just a crime story, is it?
No, absolutely not. It touches on so much more. Hidden abuse, the whole curated world of social media. There are big lessons here for all of us, really.
Right. So let's start with that surface story, the Instagram persona. It was all confidence, wasn't it? Ambition, success. Every post just screamed, living the dream.
It really did. But the contrast, wow, it's really striking. So, okay, she'd recently moved to Houston with her husband, Tom Sharkey. Online, their marriage looked, exciting, supportive, lots of couple photos, adventures together.
Yeah, the typical happy couple feed.
Exactly. But her close friends, they knew a completely different story. Alexis had started confiding in them, saying Tom was getting really controlling, emotionally abusive even. It got bad enough that she was actually making plans to leave him.
Wow. And none of this showed up online.
Not a trace. That's what's so fascinating and grim way. Her posts stayed upbeat, positive, perfectly put together, filtered. Behind every single one of those perfect captions, she was fighting this huge private battle, a storm, really.
Okay, so let's get into the timeline. This is where it gets really chilling. Thanksgiving 2020. It was quiet. She talked to her mom. Apparently sounded okay. Yeah, the mom said she sounded fine, maybe a bit distant, but not, panicked or anything.
Right, and then just 2 days later, poof, she disappears. No warning.
And her friends, they start to worry pretty quickly, right? Calling, texting, checking her socials, just silence.
Total silence.
Yeah.
And that's when the anxiety really ramps up for them.
So, Tom, what was his story initially? What did he tell the police?
His initial account was that they'd had a fight, a pretty heated argument apparently, and Alexis walked out, saying she needed space. He claimed she left on her own, without her phone or her wallet.
Okay, red flags immediately. Her friends must have known that wasn't right.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what set off the alarm bells. Alexis never went anywhere without her phone, ever, and just disappearing like that without telling anyone. It wasn't her. They knew deep down something was seriously wrong. This wasn't just needing space.
God, you can only imagine how they felt, just waiting, wondering.
Yeah, the hours must have felt like days.
And then the discovery. November 28th, 2020. A city sanitation worker driving down this remote road in Houston. He sees something off the side of the road.
I thought it was a mannequin at first.
Yeah, but it wasn't a mannequin. It was Alexis. Her body was found completely naked, just lying there, face up, lifeless.
Horrifying. Were there obvious signs of injury? That's another disturbing detail. Police noted there were no visible injuries, no obvious signs of trauma on her skin, but they immediately suspected foul play. Why? Because of where and how she was found. Her body had clearly been dumped there. It wasn't like she just collapsed.
So somebody put her there.
Precisely. And finding her like that, it just sent this deep chill through everyone, the callousness of it.
Of course, the media jumps on it. Instagram influencer found dead. That headline was everywhere.
Went viral almost instantly.
But for her friends, this wasn't a headline. It was their worst nightmare realized. And her followers were mourning, but some people started looking back, didn't they, at her recent posts?
They did. Some started seeing patterns they hadn't noticed before, things that, in hindsight, maybe felt like subtle cries for help, cryptic messages hidden in plain sight.
So what did the inner circle, her close friends and family, start revealing then? Behind that perfect filter.
Well, they started talking, and they painted a picture of someone living in fear. Alexis apparently believed she was being watched, monitored, that Tom was emotionally manipulating her. Her whole curated life, it seems, was just crumbling privately.
And they believed her decision to leave.
They felt it might have been the trigger, that her trying to break free could have led to, well, to something fatal. It really makes you think about that performance aspect of influencer culture, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So the spotlight turns to Tom Sharkey. His reaction, particularly on Facebook, was pretty memorable, wasn't it?
Oh, something else. He went online very publicly, insisting he had nothing to hide, saying how much he loved Alexis. His explanation was just that she was under stress. But his tone...
Combative, right? Defensive, kind of attacking people, asking questions.
Exactly. Very dismissive. And then he posted that infamous line, "She wasn't missing. She just needed to get away. Y'all should stop playing detective."
Wow. Wow. That sounds incredibly defensive.
It really struck people that way, especially compared to what her friends were saying.
Because her friends weren't buying it. They started sharing things, right? Texts, voice notes.
Yeah, they came forward with evidence, screenshots, voice messages, stuff that showed Tom's, let's say, unpredictable behavior. And it detailed Alexis's growing fear. She had told them, privately, she was absolutely planning to file for divorce. She wanted her own life, to be independent.
But she felt trapped.
She felt like someone was watching her every move. It made leaving incredibly difficult and scary.
So the police investigation, how did they proceed without, obvious witnesses or security footage at the scene where she was found?
Right, that's where the detective work gets really interesting. They started building a circumstantial case, piece by piece. No smoking gun initially, no clear video, no signs of a struggle there. So they focused on the digital trail. Phone records, location data from her phone.
Trying to piece together her last hours and Tom's movements.
Exactly. Her online activity, his online activity, call logs. They meticulously gathered everything they could to build a timeline and see if his story held up.
And then came the autopsy results. Weeks later.
Yes. And they were definitive. Alexis Sharkey had been strangled, ruled a homicide.
That must have changed everything. No more ambiguity about how she died.
It absolutely reignited public interest and put immense pressure on the investigation. They knew for sure she was murdered.
How did Tom react to that news and the increased scrutiny?
Well, his actions became even more suspicious, frankly. He clammed up, stopped talking to the media entirely. Then he packed up and moved to Florida. But crucially, he completely cut off all communication with the investigators, stopped cooperating.
Moving away while you're potentially a person of interest in your wife's murder. That doesn't look good.
Not at all. And police were working on the theory that she wasn't killed where she was found. The lack of struggle signs there suggested she was killed elsewhere.
Likely the home.
That was the leading theory. Killed at home, then her body was transported and dumped on that remote road.
And there was that chilling detail from a friend.
Yes. Apparently, Alexis had once told a friend, point blank, that she was afraid Tom would kill her if she ever tried to leave him. Haunting, isn't it?
Just awful. So the circumstantial case against him kept building. What were the key pieces?
Several things. Tom had no solid alibi for the time frame she disappeared. He repeatedly refused to give investigators access to his phone.
Which is always suspicious.
Highly suspicious. He stopped cooperating, as we said. And there were major inconsistencies in the timeline he did provide early on.
And friends mentioned past incidents, too.
Yeah, friends brought up past events where Tom had allegedly gotten physical, although Alexis had apparently always downplayed it or tried to protect his image back then.
So it sounds like a pattern was emerging.
Definitely. A pattern of control, of potential violence, and now extreme suspicion surrounding her death.
Eventually, prosecutors felt they had enough. A warrant for Tom Sharkey's arrest was issued. This was October 2021, right? Almost a year after she was found.
That's right. They believed the circumstantial case was strong enough. U.S. Marshals were sent to Fort Myers, Florida, to bring him in.
It didn't end with an arrest.
No. Things took another tragic turn. When the Marshals arrived to apprehend him, well, they found him dead inside the residence. Self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. It seems he might have been tipped off the night before that they were coming for him.
So just hours before they could confront him, he took his own life.
Yes. Just Silence.
No note, no confession, no explanation.
Nothing. No letter, no apology, just ended it. He effectively shut the door on any kind of legal justice, left everyone with these huge unanswered questions. At least unanswered by him.
What do you make of that final act? Taking his own life like that?
Well, you have to think it points towards guilt, right? But more than that, it feels like a final act of control. Controlling the narrative, maybe. Avoiding the public shame of a trial. Escaping accountability. It's hard not to see it that way.
So the police, what was their official stance after his death?
The Houston PD held a press conference not long after. They laid it all out. Officially named Tom as the sole suspect. They detailed the evidence, the conflicting stories he gave, the GPS data that didn't match his timeline, the witness accounts of abuse. They were very clear.
They were certain it was him.
They stated it unequivocally. There was no doubt in their minds. If Tom had been alive, he absolutely would have been arrested, charged, and tried for Alexis's murder. So for the police department, the case was essentially closed.
But for her family, her friends, that's not really closure, is it?
Not in the way most people think of closure. No trial. No chance to hear the evidence presented in court. No cross-examination. No opportunity to see him face a judge and jury. Just this awful, haunting knowledge that the person they believe killed her would never face legal consequences. That must be incredibly difficult to live with.
Absolutely. Alexis's mother, Stacey Robinot, she spoke out quite bravely, didn't she?
She did. She addressed the media, thanked everyone for their support, but also expressed this deep sorrow that her daughter's voice was just silenced. She described Alexis so beautifully: vibrant, intelligent, deeply compassionate, someone who struggled privately but still made others feel seen and valued, inspired them even.
That takes incredible strength.
It really does. And Stacey vowed then to honor Alexis's memory, not just mourn, but to advocate for other women in abusive situations. She wanted Alexis's story to mean something more.
To become more than just another tragic headline.
Exactly. More than hashtags. A catalyst for change.
And the online reaction, it continued, right? People didn't just forget after Tom's death.
No, it sparked a huge conversation. Other influencers, activists for women's rights, domestic violence organizations, they all picked up on Alexis's story. They used it to shine a light on emotional and psychological abuse, which often flies under the radar. Her case became a grim reminder that this is a widespread issue.
It really forced a kind of reckoning, didn't it? Especially within that influencer world.
I think so. It made people ask tough questions, like how many others are out there projecting joy for the algorithm while suffering in silence. That whole world suddenly felt a bit less glossy, maybe a bit less safe. And it raised those difficult questions about intervention too.
Could someone have done more? Should there have been clearer warnings? Could her life have been saved? Hard questions with no easy answers.
No easy answers at all. Just a lot of soul searching, I think.
And her Instagram. It became something else entirely after her death.
Yeah, it transformed into this sort of digital memorial. People went back rereading her captions, things like finding my peace or cutting out negativity. Suddenly, those seemingly innocent phrases took on these chilling undertones. People started seeing them as maybe coded messages, cries for help from someone trying desperately to get out.
Looking back with the knowledge of what happened, it changes everything.
It does. It forces you to look past the surface, past the filter, to really question what people mean when they just say, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because so often they're not fine at all. And her friends confirmed it. Alexis was trying to leave. She did reach out. She wanted a different future. It was tragically stolen from her.
And her mother's work with domestic abuse organizations, that gives Alexis's story ongoing power, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Alexis's name now comes up not just as an influencer who died tragically, but as a warning, a call to awareness.
She's become a symbol in a way.
A symbol, yes, but not just of tragedy, also of courage. The incredible bravery it takes to even try to leave an abusive situation, to speak up, to plan a new beginning, and heartbreakingly, a symbol of the ultimate price some women pay just for trying to be free.
Did it change anything in the influencer world itself, do you think? Any lasting impact?
It's subtle, maybe, but I think there was a shift. You started seeing perhaps a few more creators willing to show less than perfect moments, a bit more rawness, more authenticity, a slight pushback against that relentless pressure for perfection.
So bringing it all together, Alexis didn't just vanish, she was taken.
By someone she should have been able to trust implicitly.
Her death wasn't an accident, it wasn't random, it feels like active possession, an ultimate violent refusal to let her go free.
And Tom Sharkey. Even without a trial, his final act pretty much confirmed everything Alexis had apparently feared. It sealed the narrative. in a terrible way.
It's such a heavy story. It's not just about a murder, is it? It's about how easily danger can hide behind a beautiful facade.
Yeah, how toxic relationships can just fester beneath the surface, sometimes hidden by hashtags and happy photos.
And it's about silence, too. The silence we keep maybe because we're afraid we won't be believed or we don't know what to do.
But Alexis's memory, it endures now through the advocacy, through the awareness her story raised, and through people seeking the truth.
So if there's one takeaway, one thing her death teaches us, what is it?
I think it's this. Pay attention. Really pay attention. Ask the questions, even if they're uncomfortable. Look beyond the surface that people present to the world.
Because someone you know, they might be putting on a brave face, smiling, while silently slipping away.
Exactly. Alexis wanted to live. She wanted to be free. And in a way, her voice now, through her story, is louder than ever. It's this unfiltered reminder about honesty, about safety.
And about the incredible courage it takes to walk away from danger. And, if you're listening to this and any of it resonates, if you feel unsafe, trapped, anything like that, please know you're not alone.
Absolutely. There is help available. There is hope. There is life after fear. Please reach out.